I'm reading Nathaniel Brandon's 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem right now. And part 1 has 4 chapters. They are, where are they? Self-Esteem, the Immune System of Consciousness, Chapter 2, Meaning of Self-Esteem, then the Face of Self-Esteem, and then the Illusion of Self-Esteem to make up the basic principles. This chapter was kind of interesting because I can see parallels to my own life. And even when I specifically think about the trouble I've had with becoming a yoga teacher, I can see where my lack of self-esteem ultimately is what is causing my agony. And he has all these examples of people who self-sabotage or like have a big ego, quote unquote, but they all kind of destroy their lives because they have a low self-esteem. And I can see where I've done that in my own life. I always find it kind of funny because I've know for a fact that how you define your experience determines everything. Like the way that you look at a situation is how you experience life. And that comes down to the glass half full, the glass half empty. There's a glass, but the way you choose to look at that glass is your experience. And I think that I tend to look at it glass half empty. And I hate that. Like, I know that I want to change that, but I've always had a hard time doing that. I'm aware that I don't, which is big. I think that's like the first step. I have fixed a lot of things around the problem, like having a non-negotiable morning routine. I've heard a lot of people give the advice of the way that you build self-confidence, which I guess is different from self-esteem, is by keeping promises to yourself. Well, I've done that like for a while now, and I haven't really found that it's made a difference. So I find these things kind of complicated, and maybe this book would have answers. But I really like the examples he gave because one of the basic principles was the idea that you think you're deserving of happiness and good things. Like if you have self-esteem, then when good things happen, you take pride in it. And pride is not like arrogance. Pride is like satisfaction with yourself because you did something good. And a lot of people, when they lack self-esteem, will get to somewhere good, like something they've always dreamed of, but then they're so uncomfortable, they self-sabotage. The idea of, if I die by my own hand, at least I'm in control. It's crazy, but I've seen it happen. I've done this. And I've wondered, like the latest, biggest mistake that I made. I've been wondering, like, how I did that. Like, how did I make a mistake so big? And it's like I almost don't know myself, but I think it was an act of self-sabotage because I needed to bring myself down because being in a flop era is more comfortable. Striving to get out of the flop era is something I know, which is crazy. It's crazy that you can do that to yourself. And it's notable that a person with high self-esteem is not driven to make themselves superior to anyone else. So people that act really cocky, not confident, cocky, or like they're better than, those people actually have poor self-esteem as well. Because if you had good self-esteem, you only care about yourself. You're not really attuned to anything outside of yourself. brilliant people with low self-esteem act against their interests every day. And I can see that. Can see how I've done that. I think that I'm brilliant and I've done a lot of things that make no sense to people, but part of that was like mental illness, but I think part of it was just the consequences of having low self-esteem. And when we are moved by fear, we precipitate the very calamity we fear. And that is so funny. Like, this is something I've always talked about, the idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, if you're so afraid of a certain outcome, there's a tendency that you just end up making it happen. You end up making your worst fears come true because you're operating out of fear all the time, not out of assuredness. He talks about how self-esteem is made up of self-efficacy and self-respect. And I think that I ping pong between having these and not having these. I don't think I have like the lowest self-esteem, but in some areas I definitely do. I think I have like moderate self-esteem, but then it's so it's so unstable that it just creates a lot of self-sabotage. The idea of having competence and worth as a person versus feeling wrong as a person. And definitely when I was a kid, I felt like I was just wrong. Like I didn't deserve to be human, you know? The idea of being an only child and my parents being upset with me, I used to think, why did they end up with me? They had one kid, and why did they end up with me? That's a terrible way to think. And even though I don't think that way anymore, I think maybe I still haven't dealt with the branches that came off of that thought of feeling wrong as a person. He talks about if we respect ourselves, we tend to act in ways that confirm and reinforce this respect. But if we don't, then we tend to act in ways that lower our sense of value further, thereby proving our negativity. And this is something I've thought about in a different way, where I've seen people in my life who've had good experiences that build on each other versus feeling like I've had bad experiences build on each other, and the weird effects that have on my current reality. But then he says if we wish to raise our level of self-respect, we need to act in ways that will cause it to rise. And at first I thought, I am doing things that should make it rise. Like I have my non-negotiable routine. I'm very disciplined about it. But then I guess it relates back to something he talked about in chapter 1, which was if you don't have self-esteem, then your accomplishments are never going to feel good. And then his last chapter, he talks about how poor self-esteem distorts your thoughts, and the ultimate what the hell is this word? Oh, surface? I don't know what the word I wrote is, but basically the only way you can fix this or deal with this, like with anything, is it has to come from the internal. And also notably, he talks about how, he's seen speakers say, blow a kiss to yourself in the mirror and it'll help with your self-esteem. And he's like, that makes no sense. That's like a band-aid on a huge wound. And it takes a lot of deep intentional work to start building self-esteem. Like a kiss to the mirror is not going to do anything. And the reason that made me laugh is because I always see like Mel Robbins things everywhere. It's like this lady who talks a lot and she has books and whatever. And I've always thought that about her. Like, I've never, people would send me like reels and stuff of her, and I never enjoyed her content because it always felt way too surface level. Like, I've had friends tell me to listen to affirmations, and I've never liked those either, because if someone simply telling me I was worthy was gonna fix me, it would have already. Clearly, my issues go way deeper. So it felt nice to see that this author agreed with that. So yeah, that's part one.